Hi, this is Bill Patton with Visual Training for Tennis, and I'm on with my good friend Sterling Straw, the man who thought he saw an East-West collaboration coming when I had no idea that was going to happen. Sterling, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic, Bill. How are you?
Okay, what is it about me that makes me your best friend?
You know, this is very interesting. So I was out in California. I was spending a week with Kenda Hart, sort of shadowing with him and just help. I think it's important for us to go spend time with people we feel like that can mentor us. And this was years ago. I guess this was 2013. Yeah, about 7 years ago. So we found ourselves at a picnic, you and I, through a mutual friend, and we started talking. The first question you asked me is, what do you think about cheating in junior tennis, Sterling? And that just kind of spurred on a conversation. And as the night went through, I thought to myself, I'm from the East Coast, Bill's from the West Coast. I feel this connection here. I feel like we're going to sort of collaborate and do some things in the future. I didn't know what it looked like, but I just felt this connection with you and in philosophy and just the overall vibe, right? So I just kind of put it out there to you.
And I was like, nah.
But you were polite about it. Like you didn't go, I don't feel that.
I don't think so.
You were like, well, maybe,
right.
blah, blah, blah. But anyway,
okay, so
that's kind of how we
wanted to. We want you to be able to kind of feel the vibe that we have here. Now we're going to get into some stuff. Now, in this talk, we're going to get into some of the secrets of why is it so difficult for an absolute beginning tennis player to really become a legitimate, now they can play the sport. I mean, that's such a huge part of the retention of tennis players. And another huge part of retention is when people get frustrated. They get tired of being a 3-5. They get tired of being a 4-0. And there just seems to be this barrier to get to 4-5 and beyond. And having experienced that, moving up and becoming, one of the better 5-0 players in Northern California, it just gets more fun. You just feel better about yourself, and you do feel like a legitimate tennis player. So let's dig into what's one of the first big barriers, problems visually that people have.
I think the reason why we have visual problems is because we always think about the hands, right? The hand and the racket and sending the ball. And what's really interesting, there's this saying in society, that person has good hand-eye coordination. Well, actually, that's backwards. It's eyes first, then the feet have to move, and then the hands. So I wrote about this in my book, and you helped me with this book. It's like this trifecta: eyes, feet, hands. So I think the first thing is when we after we hit the ball, we look up, we immediately, our eyes are fixed on our shot, the ball leaving us. And so for a split second, we're focused on the wrong object at the wrong time. So when we look up, our eyes should find the player, because the player's going to go to the shot we just hit. And so what we should find is the player, and then the ball is sort of in our sort of the scanning part of focus, or the sort of, it's a part of the shot, but that's not what we find with our eyes. Right. So I think that's number one.
Well, and I want to piggyback off that really quick, is that one thing as a coach that I found myself doing that I realized was wrong was I would hit my shot, and then I would immediately look over at the student because I want to see how they're hitting, and then what I didn't realize though is not only was I not hitting as well as I could, but they were imitating what I was doing. They were like, oh, if coach does that, that's what I should do. But so instead I learned to stay with my shot as the coach, and then at the last second look over, because I needed to be able to see what they were doing in order to prepare. So now one other quick comment. I had one of my YouTube subscribers ask me a question about wrist lag, right? Which is a great question. I mean, it's a really important thing for people to understand. But back to your point, the eyes come first. I mean, we're focused on so many little advanced nuances to how to hit the ball, but if you can't see it, you can't hit it. All right. So So we probably have time to do like two more really kind of painful things about seeing now. Now, one thing I think is a real barrier is people trying to keep pinpoint vision of the ball. And then, that like they're at the net, they're close, the ball's right there for a winning volley, and they got it all lined up, and they're just laser looking at the ball, and then they mishit it, and the ball's in the net, and they're like crushed. I mean, it's like, that was match point. They could have won the match, but instead the ball's in the net, and now they got to keep playing. What's that all about?
Well, I think there's a couple things that can happen. I mean, you're going to talk about this in the course, the difference between pure dextral and cross dextral. But I think one of the things that happens is that ball's coming and we're about to strike it, and we literally shift our head. When we shift our head, our eyes they move to another focal point, maybe where we would like to hit it, right? Where we'd like to hit that winner. And so, Vic Braden said this years ago, back in the 70s, when you shift your head ever so slightly, it's your focus that changes, because your eyes obviously go with your head, unless you're you're looking this way and your head goes that. So I think that's a big thing, is the shifting, not keeping your head still all the way through.
So yes, so in order to see the ball, your eyes need to be relatively still. I think what people don't realize too is that when they're trying to keep that pinpoint vision, the last part of that, they think they need to keep their eyes with the ball, and the sideways motion creates a saccade, which essentially makes you blind for that moment. All right, so and we got this webinar coming up, and actually, what we should call it this. We're going to call it a clarity call. So we're going to make it very clear a lot of the painful things about vision. And we're going to do some teaching during that time, but it's really going to be more about fully explaining the problems of the way vision has been taught to tennis players. So you will probably discover some of the things that you heard were wrong. Okay, so why don't we talk about the phrase, watch the ball. Okay.
It's just devastating. It's a devastating statement. It's so, the first thing I think about, I think about watch the ball. I would say like, hey, Bill, look around. It's so vague. Like, look around at what? Watch the ball. Like, what does that even mean? I mean, we as coaches, we assume our players know what that means, right? Mm-hmm. And because we have a more clear understanding of what we'd like it to mean, but the word watch, the phrase watch the ball is so unspecific, if you will. It's just, and that's the thing. I think when we're talking about very, say, obvious things here, right, Bill? I mean, they seem obvious, but honestly, there's depth to this simplicity, right? And so there's so many more better things you could say to help the player find the ball, focus in on the ball at the right time, at the right moment.
Yeah. I've recently gotten in touch with some new experts in vision, and probably the top researcher in the world right now in vision has tested 100,000 athletes, and they have not found two athletes with the same visual skill profiles. No two alike. And so what we do is we assume that because we learned something a certain way, that everybody's going to learn in a certain way, and that's just the way we do it. And so what has happened is people have sort of accidentally, without much help, learned how to see the ball. And then they have then passed that along. The pain of that has been passed along generationally. And, there's so much better we can do. So anyway, you had something that you wanted to finish us off with. You remember your statement?
Right. Well, I think it's really interesting to point out. I mean, if you're watching this, obviously we're asking you, sign up for the webinar. And so we can go through this, it's going to be about 30 minutes and go through a little bit more detail, play off this. But honestly, if you want to really, the course that Bill is offering is something that it's if you want to go deeper in this, if you want to really understand how to actually teach it, how to as a player consume it, how to make it real for you, how to transform your game just by turning more of your attention on where your eyes are focusing on at what time, and the idea of what you need to think about, right? And it's really important. What you think is what you'll see, and those things are tied up. So I think the course, is for those of you who are going to want to truly transform your game. Yes, you're going to get some great pointers on the webinar. We're going to give you some solutions, but they're the tip of the iceberg. And we know everything about an iceberg. If you know anything about icebergs, what you see out of the water is about a tenth of what's under the water.
Right. And so what's going to happen is you're going to learn how to play tennis better. You're going to feel less frustration. You're going to make fewer catastrophic errors. You're going to be able to learn to concentrate better for longer periods of time in your match, which is vital to win those close matches. You have to be able to concentrate. And then, you will also learn sort of about the mindset that goes into the psychology of having a clear mind, so that you can see more clearly that way. So, there are many more benefits. I wouldn't want to make this go 12 minutes by trying to name them all. But Sterling, I'm excited about the webinar. I can't wait to share the webinar with you watching right now. And thank you. And click the link below. You'll see that, and it'll be easy to get in there and get the Zoom link. All right. Thanks for your time, Sterling.
Thanks, Bill. It was a pleasure.
Okay, bye-bye.